Okay, this is the U-bot interface, and what we've got here is we've got a window on the right hand side, which is basically a web browser which we can use to help us build the bots. We've got this area here, which is where the script or the bot itself will be created as we add commands and get the bot working. This is where the flow of steps and stages will appear. And then over here we've got various commands that we can use to work with U-bot. Now there is a learning curve to U-bot, and in order to find where certain things are, you do have to have a sort of a play around with it, but there are plenty of tutorials. What I tend to do is I use this search toolbox to find things rather than going down through here. Everything is categorized into one of these categories, but I find it difficult to remember which category certain things are in. So for example, I use a set command, and rather than search for it down here, I'll type it into the search box, and then I'll just grab it from the top and drag it into the script area. So that's how I use it. Now I could do this bot from the very beginning, and I could get it to go to Aweber and log in for me, and you know, the user interface could include a username and password, and I could even get it to select the list that I want to import messages into. However, I'm going to simplify it, make this as simple as possible, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go directly to the page where I want to add, or directly to the area where I want to add the messages. So in the browser area, I'm just going to log into Aweber. Okay, and I'm going to go to Messages Follow-up Series. The follow-up series are basically the autoresponders. So what I want to do is, I've already selected the Juicing the Rainbow list. Just go to Messages Follow-up Series and click on that. Okay, and that opens up then this area with the follow-up messages where you can create your autoresponder sequence, basically the messages that are sent out week to week. Now, first thing I want to do with my bot is I want to be able to have a box at the top where I can say how many messages I want to insert. Again, there are other ways of doing this automatically. I mean, when I create the bot and the bot goes and it looks at the text files that it needs to import, it could automatically count those, and therefore it would know how many messages to insert. But as I said, I want to try and keep this bot at this stage as simple as possible. So what I need to do is I need to find the UI commands, user interface commands, and I want to add a UI text box. I'm just going to drag it to the very top here, and this I'm going to say how many messages to upload, and I'm going to add down here a variable called how many. Okay, now a variable is, in programming, a variable is just something that can hold a piece of information. Now I want this variable called how many to hold a number, and that number will be the number of items to import. So if I click on OK, that saves that. We'll see the screen changes over here, and this is the user interface part of the program up here. So it's saying how many messages to upload. Well, I got 46, and that's where I would type that. And then when I run the bot, basically how many will be assigned the number that's in this box. So it assigns how many to 46. Now I am going to need another couple of variables. As I go through the 46 messages, uploading one by one, I want to keep track of the number of the message that's going to be imported, so that when the first message is being imported, this new variable will hold the number 1. When the second message is being imported, it will hold the number 2, and so on. And I'm going to use this message number in the title of the autoresponder messages that I'm going to import. We'll see that anyway. I don't want to go into too much detail and confuse you, but let me just go and choose the set command, because I'm going to set a new variable, and I'm going to call this variable messNum for message number, and I'm going to give the variable a value to begin with when the code runs of 1. So let me just save that. So basically what we're doing, this creates a new creates a new variable called messageNum and gives it a variable. Let me say that again. This creates a new variable called messNum and gives it a value of 1 at the very beginning of the program when the bot is first run. Okay, I need one more variable, at least one more that I can think of at the moment, and I'm going to create this one with a set command as well. Oops. And this one I'm going to call interval, because this variable will hold the value of the number of days between autoresponder messages. Now, I'm going to want autoresponder messages to be sent out every 7 days. However, I'm going to set this value at 0 to begin with, because for the very first message that I post, I want the autoresponder message to be sent at the time they confirm their subscription. So basically, they'll go and sign up, fill in the name and email address, click on OK. They'll confirm their email address, and then they will be sent the first autoresponder. So the first autoresponder has to be sent on day 0, which is the very beginning. After that, the next one is sent 7 days later, and then 7 days after that, and then 7 days after that. So we have this situation here where I'm going to set the interval at 0 to begin with, and then once the first autoresponder message has been posted, I'll then change that interval to 7 so that the next one is sent 7 days after that. Okay, now what we need next is we need a loop. We need a loop that's going to loop through the commands 46 times, and each time it loops through, it's going to post a new autoresponder as a follow-up message. Okay, so I'm going to go up and look for loop, and I just want a loop. I don't want loop while, and I've got to say how many cycles I want this loop to go through. Now, what I want the loop to go through is the number that's up here, and if you remember, this number is assigned to this variable how many. So down here under the variables, you can actually see the variables that I've created listed, and what I want is how many. So I want the loop to go through how many times? 46. Now everything inside this box here, everything I add to this loop now inside this box here will be repeated 46 times. When we come to test to see how this works, this bot, what I can do is I can change this to maybe 2 times, let it run and see whether it imports the first 2 messages correctly, and that way I don't have to change the bot itself. All I need to do is change this number to the number of times just for the test purposes. Now, first thing I want it to do is when you go to click on a follow-up message, we get to this page, and then you click on this link to create your first follow-up message. Now I've done a little bit of testing on this, and what I found is that if you click on that, it always goes to the same URL, and that's this one up here. Let's just wait for it to load. So I don't need to capture going to the follow-up page and then going to click on the follow-up message. I could get the bot to do that for me, but instead it's just far easier, and I think it's stopped loading. I think it's far easier just to go directly to this page. So the first time, this is the cycle, the first time it goes through the cycle, it needs to go to the page where it's going to add a new follow-up message, and to do that we need to navigate to a page. So here we have a command to navigate. I'm going to drag that into the loop, and it says navigate URL. There is my URL that I want it to navigate to. And click on OK. What I can do just to test it, I can right click in the header part up here in the header bar and click on run node. That says finish editing your script. It's because I haven't OK to say that the loop is complete. Right. We haven't completed by a long way. I just wanted to check and see whether it's going to navigate OK to that page, because we need to get to that page before we can continue the bot. Here we go. Alright, and then it loads up the screen where we import our message. Oops. Okay, so this is the screen where we import the message. We've got a subject box, and we've got the main box for the autoresponder message. Now, this stage here will load, let me just do that again, it will load this screen. But as you can see, you can't see it now because it's already there. It's not run node. It's already there. But as you saw, it took a while to load up. Oh, it is loading up now. You can see the refresh going on here. But it's taking a while to load up. And I don't want anything to happen on this screen until it's fully loaded. Oh, something's gone wrong. Okay. That's an Aweber issue. I hope not a U-bot thing, because all it's doing is it's trying to load up this page. Okay, I'm going to have to pause this video until this error has cleared itself, and then I can come back and continue. Okay, just briefly, I thought I'd tell you what the problem is. My internet connection seems to have gone because I can't get to Google. So I've tried in a web browser, I can't get to Google either. They are working outside my house, so I hope they haven't cut through my telephone line. But anyway, I'm going to go and reset the modem, and we'll see if it works then. Okay, we're back. I didn't reset the modem, I just disconnected my computer from the internet and then reconnected it. Let's just rerun that node, and as you can see, as this loads, we're going to get in a minute a screen saying, there we go, loading. I don't want this bot to continue until the load has finished. Now what you can do is you can put in delays, and I can't remember whether it's, no it's not, is it delay or is it pause? Actually, I'm going to go down, I know where this is in these commands here. It's under web browser, browser command. Is it browser command or is it, let's have a look. Okay, actually it's not under the browser command, it's under flow command, and it's wait for browser event. And you can say, you can wait for the page to load, wait for everything to load. However, because this seems to be sorted with some sort of script, the script might load before the form loads, and I have had inconsistent results with that type of thing. So a better way, or at least for this particular example, a better way is to have a look and see what on the page is here now that wasn't here before the page loaded, or as the page was loading. So let me just run that node, and we'll have a look and see what isn't there. This subject line is one thing, but I'm going to have a look further down the page at the bottom here, above this integrate with Aweber. Let's have a look and see what it is that is loaded after the form. Okay, we've got this revision history. So this revision history is at the bottom of every single follow-up that when you go to add a new follow-up, it's at the bottom of every single page. So what I want to do is I'm going to say, instead of wait for browser event, I'm going to say wait for element. And basically I want to wait for this element on the page. And I could actually hack into the HTML code with UBot, but a simpler way is to do this. It's to click on this little camera icon and just take a screenshot of the bit that you want to load. And as you can see over here in my bot, it's now saying wait for this bit to load. Okay. Now just to test that, let's have a look. I'm going to put in a little alert, which will fire when this has been satisfied, when this wait for element has been satisfied. Let's just say done. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to run the bot from the beginning, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to set this just to 1. I don't want the bot having to go through many times. So what will happen is it will load this page. When this becomes visible on the page, this revision history, then we'll get the message alert saying done. So let's just run this and see. You can see now it's loading the page, loading the form. Here we go, loading the form, loading the form, loading the form. Still loading the form. The form is loaded. Oh, and then we saw the message there. Let me see if I can get that back. Okay, I've lost the message there. Okay, I just dragged it back and then it was done. But did you see how that done only appeared after the form had completely loaded? And that's important because once the form is loaded, I want to paste in, get this as big as possible. I want to paste in subject and the autoresponder message, but I can't paste it in until these are here. And if I don't make this check, then it's quite possible that this program will try to paste them in before the page is fully loaded, and then nothing happens. We have nothing basically loaded into subject or the main subject. Let me just delete this message because we don't need that, and we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, I hope you're following me so far. Now, what I want to do next is we're at the stage where we can paste in the messages, but I need to load those messages. At the moment, I've got those messages over here in my Kindle Books, Fruit and Vegetable Bible, Autoresponder messages, text files, and I've got all 46 text messages there. But I need to load those, or make Aweber, not Aweber, sorry, I need to make UBot aware of them. And to do that, what I need to do is I need to create a list, and that list is then going to hold these 46 items. The first thing I need to do is create the list, and I'm going to create it by actually saying clear list, and this will actually create it for me as it clears it. And clear basically just means empty it. And the reason I'm doing that is that before I import a message into this list will be a message. It's basically the text file for that particular message. Before it imports into there, I want to clear the values so that, for example, on the first run through, this message variable will hold the contents of one.txt. The second go through, I want to clear one.txt and load in 2.txt and then 3.txt. If I don't clear it, then there's a good chance, and I think it's definite would happen, that the 1.txt and then 2.txt will be added onto the end of the text, and then 3.txt will be added onto the end of that. So I'm just clearing it first so that when it loads a new message, it's loading just that and nothing else. So I've cleared the list. Now, what I need to do is add an item to this list, and that's another command. We'll add item to list. Okay, and what we're going to add is the first autoresponder message. We are adding the autoresponder message to this list, which we've just cleared, and then the item to add. Now what I need to do is say I want to add a list from a file. In programming terms, a list is just a number of lines of text or lines of characters. So I want to add to this list, which is just a series of lines of text, I'm adding a text file so that this message then becomes the text file. Now I need to browse to that file, and I've got it over here. Okay. And now what would happen, let's just go back a stage. Firstly, this form loads, waits for the form to finish loading, then it clears a list, and this list is going to be used to load in the first autoresponder message. In fact, it's going to be used to load in every autoresponder message one at a time as it cycles through 46 times. The next command, add to list, we're saying add to this messages list the first autoresponder message, which is here. Okay, let me see if I can drag that out a little bit more. No, it's not going to. Okay, it's not going to do that. However, what I don't want to do, if you can imagine as it stands at the moment, as this cycles through 46 times, it's going to load one.txt 46 times, and it's going to upload that to Aweber. I don't want that. I want it to be 1.txt, then 2.txt, then 3.txt, then 4.txt, and so on. So what I need to do, instead of having 1 there, I need to have message number. I can drag that in. Unfortunately, you can't see it so well, but there we go. So now it's dragged in. It's going to load message number.txt. Message number is currently set at 1. So the first time this runs through, it's going to say message number, it's going to load 1.txt. Okay, that makes sense? Okay, now is it time when we can start to insert our message here, because we've loaded the first message into the messages, into the message variable. So we're ready to go. What I need to do is say that I want to change the attributes of this subject line. And don't worry if you don't understand that. Basically, to insert a form, some forms are very easy. You just click and drag, and it will actually drag that box or that variable that needs to be inserted in there, it will drag it down to your script, and then you can say what you want it to actually say. In this case, this form is made with some sort of script and it doesn't work. So what I have to do is say, I want to change, right click anywhere in the box, change attribute. And where has that? Whoops, it's thinking about it. Okay, here we go. We've got the change attribute now. So this refers to this subject line here. You can see there the element to change is ID subject line. That ID is taken from the CSS of this form. Now what I want to change is the contents of it, and that typically is inner text. And I want to set the inner text to a value, and I'm going to say I want to set it to juicing the rainbow newsletter number. And then what I want is the message number again. So on the first run through, it will insert juicing the rainbow number 1. Okay, we can actually try that now. We can just right click, run node to see if it works. There we go, juicing the rainbow number 1, newsletter number 1. So that has inserted that. The next thing we need to do is to change the attributes of the main text, the main body here. So let's go to change attribute again. And you can see it's actually put that one above the subject line. Sometimes it does this, it doesn't matter. I can grab it. Let me just click on OK for a second. I can grab it and rearrange it, drag it down. And to edit it again, if you click on OK, that basically saves it. To edit it again, you just right click in the subject bar at the top, edit. Right, so now we want to change the element, this body. You see plain text editor, that's what I'm inserting it into. And I want to change again the inner text, and what I want to insert is a variable, and the variable is where the message is stored, which is up here, the clear list, add item to list, add item to the message, variable, list from file. It's loading from the file into the message. So what I need is the message list, and we need to go down to lists to find that. There we go, message list, and insert that there. Click on OK. And let's just run that to see how that works. Okay, it hasn't, but then let me just check everything's right. It might be that it hasn't loaded because we haven't loaded the file into the message. Let me just run that node there, run this one, so hopefully it loads the correct message. Let me try this one again and see. There we go, now it's in. So there's the first message loaded in. However, it needs to be wrapped. Okay, then we need to have a line wrap there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to try it this way and see, click and drag the wrapped lines. There we go, and it's actually dragged it down to here now. So what this is saying, click that button. Let me just show you that again. Just click and drag the button you want to click down to your script. Click on OK, and that's done. Let's right click and run that and see if it works. Okay, that works. So now we have the message all lined up. Okay, so we're getting there. Now, next thing we need to do, if we were filling this in manually, we would have down here somewhere. Let me drag this across because I can't actually see it. There we go. We have these buttons down here. What we need to do is click on this next button. So again, all we need to do, click, grab and hold, drag it down, click on OK, and then to run that, let's right click, run the node from the script, and it takes us to this screen. Now the first thing we need to do on this screen is change the interval, and at the moment it's set at 999. And what I'm going to do is say change the attribute for the 999 follow-up interval, and I'm going to say set the value at, and what we're going to set the value at, well, we want them every 7 days apart. However, the very first one we want it at 0, and remember here we've got a variable set up called interval, which is already set at 0. So we're going to drag into the interval down here. Oops, missed that. Try again. There we go. So now it's going to set this interval at whatever is held inside this interval variable, which should be 0. That should be below that one, shouldn't it? Okay, as I said, sometimes they seem to put them, if you haven't got your mouse or the right item selected at some points, it can insert them above or below. Just check that. So that was the wrap line button. That was to go onto the next screen, which is the settings screen. This one is to set that value at the interval, which for the first message should be 0. Let's right click and run it and see. Right, which it is. So that's now set. The next thing I want on this page is I want to uncheck this, because if I track clicks to the website, then all the links are encoded, and I think that reduces the click-through rate. So what I want to do is I want to change the checkbox, and I want to say make the checkbox unchecked. Click on OK, and if we got that in the wrong box, that's gone into the wrong position as well. So let's just put that below there. Let's just run that and see what happens. There we go, the checkbox is unchecked. And we're going to click on this button in a minute, but before we do, I want to increase message number. At the moment the message number is equal to 1, and we use that when we put the subject of the message in. I want to increase that by 1, so I'm going to increment, and I can select message num from the list. So now message num is going to be equal to 2. The other thing I need to do is I need to set the interval now. That's the first message done. The next message, I want the interval to be set to 7, so that all other messages are now set at 7. Remember, the interval was originally set outside the loop to 0, and so once inside the loop, there's no setting of the interval except after the first run through, where the interval is now set to 7, so that the next time the loop is run on message 2, the interval will be 7, and it will insert 7 in this box up here, not 0. Okay. So where are we? We've just set the interval to 7. Next thing we need to do is click on this save and exit button. Let's just drag that down. Click on save and exit. And I'm going to right click, run that node. Whoops, I haven't finished editing. I've got to click on OK to say that's finished. Right click, run that node, clicks that button, and let's see what happens next. Okay, this is my list of follow-up series. When I had the timeout, or when I was fiddling earlier on, I must have inserted some by mistake. We're going to test this again. Let's just delete that, delete that. This one, this one, and then you see this is the one we just added now. I'm going to delete that as well. And just to check now to make sure everything is working fine, I'm going to run the script from the beginning. We haven't finished yet because we need to, once this screen appears with the messages that have already been uploaded, we need to then go back to the insert screen to insert the next one, and then go back to the start of the loop to insert the next one. Let me just run it now. I'm going to run it from the beginning and we'll see what happens. And you can follow, I don't know whether you will be able to follow it, but you can see this is where it is at the moment. There's a box around the navigate to, and it's navigating to the follow-up message screen. And it looks like my internet has dropped again. Just a minute. Okay, so hopefully this won't happen again. I've connected to a different internet router, so hopefully it's not going to happen again. Let me try again. I'm going to run it from the beginning again. You can see the box around this one is now trying to load that screen. Now the box moves down to here. It's waiting for the revision history to appear at the bottom. That's appeared. Now you just saw the boxes shoot off at the bottom there. And we have the first message here. So it's already done the first message. If I log in using a web browser, in fact, let's just do it here. I can just click on here. I was going to log into the web browser and just check to see this before deleting it. Okay, this internet connection is a lot slower, but here we go. We've got Juicing the Rainbow, newsletter number 1. Then we have the message in there. My signature will be added to the bottom of that, so don't worry that that doesn't finish very well. So the autoresponder message is in there. That's great. That's everything's worked fine. Now, once the message has been added, this is the screen we come back to. Okay. And what we need to do then is go back to, navigate back to this URL where we add the follow-up message and add the next one. But again, first thing we need to do, we need to wait until this page loads, and I'm going to do the same, wait the same way we did before. Let's say element, sorry, that's not, it's wait for element. Drag that down into the bot. Now the element I'm waiting for, I'm going to take a picture again. I'm going to say, I can't remember whether this campaign sharing, no it won't. I could use that down there, or I could use this. I'm going to just use that for simplicity. If this doesn't work and this loads before, well, it actually doesn't matter. If this loads up, then this page is already here, so the message has been saved. So it doesn't matter even if this hasn't appeared on the screen before we go to the next loop. In other words, the next message to be imported. So that should work. Okay, and that's it now. What's going to happen? Let's just go through the flow of this. How many pages to upload? Takes its number from here, shoves that number into the variable how many. We've created a variable called messNum, which is the number of the message that it's currently importing. Set it to 1 because that's the first one we import. The interval is the number of days between messages, and we've set that to 0 because for the very first message we want the message sent on the same day that the person signs up, and then we're going to change the interval to 7. Right, so that's all set up. We now enter the loop, and the loop is where the messages are uploaded, and it will loop through as many times as we've got here. Currently set at 1, but when we import it's going to be 46, and that number 46 is found in this variable how many. You remember up here? How many? And so in this case now it says number of cycles 46. So it's basically going to do everything in this loop box 46 times. It's going to first go to this URL, which is the URL, this one, the follow-up series URL, and then add the add message button clicked. So it's going directly to that URL rather than having to go first to that, then click the add button. We're going directly to there. It's going to wait for the element on the page, which tells us, or tells the bot, that the page is fully loaded and the subject and message boxes are there. We're then going to clear a variable called message, which is going to hold the autoresponder message. And remember, this is just a list, and a list is just a number of lines of text. So that's all we're doing. We're clearing a variable called message, which can hold lines of text, which is exactly what we want. And then that is a clear empty variable. We want to load that variable with the first message. And remember, we're loading the message from a file. So we're inserting into this list something from a file, and we chose to insert, if I just going to edit this and show you, to remind you, we chose to insert the first file, which we then edited so that instead of saying 1.txt, it used the variable message number.txt. And the message number will always be the number of the message that's being currently inserted. So this run through, it's number 1. So it's now loaded message number 1.text into the, it was this one, sorry, is now loaded message 1.text into the message box, and then we come down to the subject line. We're on, if you remember, we're on the form with the subject line and the message box. This is where we change the element of the subject line, in other words the inner text or the contents of the message subject box, and we insert Juicing the Rainbow newsletter number and then message number. This is the number of the message, which is number 1. We then change the inner text of the editor, which holds the message, and we've inserted the message list, which is the email message that we're sending in 1.text. Then clicked on the wrap lines to wrap the lines so that the message, is in only so many characters wide, which is sort of ideal for reading on email clients. And then this one is the save button, so it's saved that and moved on to the next page where we have to insert the interval. And at the moment this is the first run through, so the interval between the messages is the value of interval, which is 0. So inserted 0 for the first one, and then we've unchecked the click tracking, and then we've increased the message number because we're now going to go on to message number 2, and we've increased the interval because from now on we want the interval to be 7 every time. When this comes through for every other iteration of this loop now, from the second iteration all the way up to 46, this will be reset at 7. I mean, it doesn't need to be reset at 7, but it's just that command will be carried out anyway, so it's not actually going to change the value. And then this clicks and saves the message, which then comes back to this screen, which waits for this area of the screen, follow-up series, before it then finishes the loop and goes right back up to the top, where it goes back to this navigate again, and then it runs through, waits for the form to load, clears the list, so it clears 1.text out of that message. Then it adds a new item to the list, which will be 2.text because we're now on message number 2. Then it inserts Juicing the Rainbow newsletter number 2 and the text from the message, and so on. And it just repeats that 46 times until all the messages are loaded in. That's the theory. Now, you've seen I had a few problems with the internet dropping, and if that happened while the bot was running, we'd probably have to end up deleting all of the inserted ones again, or I could just change this. If it inserted 20, I could say, right, let's just insert 26, and then I would change this somehow so that this value then started at how many did I say there was? So it didn't start at number 1, but it started at whichever one was the next one, number 21 or 27 or wherever we were in the list, and then it could repeat it that way. But essentially that's the bot done, and all I need to do now is to run it. But because this video has been really long, I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it in the next video.